first of all, became famous? Where does that come from? Okay, my fashion photography has always been biased to commercial fashion, and I have several different markets that I actually work in, which are bridal wear, couture, lingerie, hosiery and swimwear. Okay, so now coming back to my markets, okay, that I have spent all of my sort of working life as a photographer working in. So it's bridal wear, couture, swimwear, lingerie and hosiery. So each of those different markets has an industry sector or a market sector that I can actually focus my attention on and actually and direct my my work to. So I show them my work, and if it fits in with their philosophies and their ideas and they like my work, they commission me to shoot for them. And it's been the same from the very beginning. I mean, if I go back sort of 30 odd years ago, the bridal wear was actually an area of the industry that I actually worked in quite a lot. In fact, I still do work in bridal wear, not quite as much as I used to do, but I focus my attention on those markets. So I seek out the clients, and I've always done the same thing with each of these different areas. Now, also what actually happens is people choose you as a photographer because they like the style of your work. And in the early days, I shot a lot of bridal wear for a couple of different designers, and there was quite a renowned designer called Catherine Rayner, and Catherine Rayner at the time was the UK's biggest bridal wear designer, and every other bridal wear company actually followed her and copied her because of her position. Just like it's the same thing with photography, same reason why you're asking me these questions about my work. Other people look up to fashion designers, or other designers look up to fashion designers who've been very successful. So so I target these markets. I look at the lingerie market, I look at the swimwear markets, and I see who needs pictures, who also actually, I think, would actually whose image ideals would actually suit my work. So I send my images out to them, and then they, if they like my work, they commission me to shoot their collection for them. So, and it's the same each season. Hello, Math. How are you doing? We have a visitor. We have a little moth to come to say hello. Hello, little moth. Okay, there he is. He's sweet. Look at him. That's why they're lovely. Look. Wow. Beautiful. So, to try to answer this question, I've always focused my attention on specific markets. So that's a good thing to have. I'm a brand, for instance, and my work suits certain genres of fashion photography, and the overall blanket over that is commercial fashion. Okay, so the people who are selling their products basically either for wholesale, or they're selling them to the consumer. So they always need pictures. Every fashion photographer, first of all, needs to have a specific market that they actually want to shoot for. Those markets come in three major different areas: advertising, editorial and commercial. Now, my work is biased to commercial fashion, so I'm shooting commercial fashion pictures for designers, for manufacturers, for brands and labels of those specific areas that I mentioned earlier on: swimwear, lingerie, hosiery, bridal wear, couture. So I focus my my marketing to those sectors of the industry, and those that like my work come back to me and say, well, can you shoot for us, or can we see more of your work? And as a photographer who's actually trying to establish a market, you actually have to have a specific, first of all, a specific style of your own, and then you have to look at the various different markets that you want to work in. If you want to be an advertising photographer, look at the advertising industry, look at the adverts in magazines and on the billboards on the street, and if that's the type of image that you want to produce, you create the images yourself that match the markets. Okay, so I have always shot fashion. I always loved shooting fashion. I like the exchange. I like to have a one-to-one exchange of energy with my subject, and I like to play with that subject. I like to entice energy and feelings and emotion out of my subject. So, but I have to earn a living, so I have to adapt what I need as far as being a photographer is concerned, or an image maker, or image creator. happens to fit in with that situation. And I first of all actually love beautiful things. I love beautiful models, I love beautiful clothes, I love a beautiful line, and this area of industry actually gives me something to play with, something to experiment with, something to actually achieve something with. And making an image is about achieving something, and actually achieving something that actually has some value and also some usage to it. Because a picture that has no energy to it, a picture that has no feelings, no emotion, has no use, because people respond to the image. Now, I shoot pictures of my clients' fashions that other people will look at and respond to, and the response that they have is, I love the picture, and then I actually love the product in the picture, or I can identify with the product in the picture. So these are all the things that I actually have always put into my work, into my marketing. I also have a desperation to actually be to be able to produce images for people, and I have to earn a living. So it's a balance of both. My creativity, my needs are all fulfilled. I gain a lot of self-respect from being a photographer. I get respect from other people. I earn my living from doing it, and I get a lot of personal growth from it. So so that's how I've competed basically with actually anybody else in the industry. I've focused on my market specifically, looked at the markets, and this is as photographers you should do the same. You should look at the markets that you have an interest in, or things that you have a passion in, and actually develop your photography to match those passions. And it has to be a great need. It has to be a great desirable thing for you to do. You have to be absolutely passionate about it to the actual maximum, because that's what it needs. You know, that's what you need as a photographer, is all that that power and energy that you create yourself in your pictures for other people to respond to. People look at images, and people look at images for a certain amount of time, and 99% of the time people are looking at an image for a tiny fraction of a moment. And as a photographer, it's your job to make people look at those pictures for longer, and that's how you work it out. Okay, if I can make a picture that somebody will look at for 1 second, that's actually extremely successful. If you can make somebody look at your picture for 2 seconds, that's fantastic. If you can make people look at your pictures for 4 seconds, okay, that means that you become commercially viable as a photographer or as an image maker. Now, whichever genre of photography that you actually picked. Okay, now I've answered the second question for our friend here, because of the reasons why I actually shoot fashion, but I actually shoot passion with fashion with passion. I haven't even had a drink. No, I have it. I lied. I have had a drink. Okay, so so this is it. The thing you are passionate about, you can actually have a lot of interest in. I mean, I can't quite understand why people can get quite fascinated and quite passionate about some inanimate objects, for instance, as in people who shoot still life. But there are people who actually are fascinated by numbers. You know, they become an accountant. People who are fascinated by the rights and wrongs or the legal system, they become a lawyer, etc., etc. Now, as a photographer, we are passionate about making an image, and what we make an image of is usually something we're passionate about. So I'm passionate about fashion, and that's the whole process. You know, that's what it's all about, is being passionate about taking pictures of fashion and earning a living at doing it, and expressing my creativity, and also fulfilling my my desire to actually communicate, because that's what I'm doing. I'm communicating and also learning and building up my understanding of the subject matter that I'm actually photographing. So I hope that answers your question.